Hi, Mrs. Young here, and today we're going to talk about fishes. So some characteristics that all fish share are that they live in water, they use fins to move, they're ectotherms, which means that they are animals that don't produce much internal body heat. And then they're also the largest group of vertebrates. So like all animals, fish also have to obtain food and oxygen. So fish use their nervous system and sense organs to help them find food. And then they also have gills, and this is how they obtain oxygen from water. So let's take a closer look at how a fish actually gets its oxygen. If you've ever seen a fish swimming in a fish tank, you see its mouth opening and closing a lot. Well, what it's doing is it's actually taking big gulps of water. So the water is going in to the fish's mouth, and then it passes to the gills. And the gills are full of blood vessels. And they're a special structure that allow the oxygen to be taken out of the water. So we know water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. So the gills pull that oxygen out, and that oxygen goes into the blood that is then circulated to the rest of the body. And then the carbon dioxide that is in the fish's body from cellular respiration is coming out of the blood, goes into the water, and then comes out the gills. So movement. When you think of fish, you think of fins, right? That's how a fish actually moves, and they have lots of different types of fins on their body to help them do different things. And basically a fin is just a thin membrane that's stretched across bony supports, and it provides a large surface to push against the water. So if you've ever been canoeing or kayaking, you have your paddle and has the big broad end that you stick in the water, and when you pull it back, it pushes against the water and it propels you forward. Same thing with a fish. So for reproduction, all fish reproduce sexually. Most of them do external fertilization, which means that the young develop outside the female. So a female fish will lay its eggs, and then a male will kind of be waiting, and it just basically spreads a big cloud of sperm over those eggs. The eggs get fertilized, and then they develop into little fishes. Now, there are some fish that do internal fertilization, which means that the eggs are fertilized inside the female, and then the young develop in the female, and then she gives birth to them. So sharks are an example of that. So with fish, there are three major groups. There's the jawless, the cartilaginous, and then the bony. So let's talk about the jawless first. Jawless fish were around during the dinosaur period. They have no jaws or scales, and they have these mouths that have these structures that are almost like little spikes that are used for scraping, stabbing, and sucking food. And their skeletons are made of cartilage. So cartilage is like your nose. It's hard, but it's not actually bone. So some examples of jawless fish are lampreys and hagfish. So then the second group is the cartilaginous. These have jaws and scales, and their skeletons are also made of cartilage. So some examples would be sharks, rays, and skates. And then finally, we have bony. So when you think of fish, these are usually the types of fish that you think of. So they have jaws and scales. And then on each side of their head, they have these little pockets for their gills. Their skeletons are made of hard bones. And then they also have a swim bladder. And what that is it's just a gas-filled sac that helps with stability. So as fish go and dive into different depths of water, the swim bladder will adjust accordingly to make sure that the fish stays stable. So some examples of these are trout, tuna, and goldfish. So that's pretty much all we have on fish, and I hope that you found that helpful.